Welcome to Stories Between Us, a podcast of short, fictional stories about the lives, tension, and intimacy between queer men. These episodes are for mature audiences and may include explicit themes. Told through AI voice narration, each episode drops you into a moment, a glance, a decision, a connection that lingers. Stories that feel real, sometimes sexy, sometimes messy, and always rooted in what's felt, even when it's never said. This mini story is a love letter to the teachers and counselors who stay late, to the adults who carry everyone else's storms, and to the quiet resilience of Black queer care. It's about the counselor or teacher who becomes a refuge for every queer kid in the building. The one who listens, protects, and reminds them they're safe, even on the days when that weight feels too heavy to hold alone. The hallway changed once the last school bus pulled away. Noise emptied out, leaving only the sound of air moving through vents and the faint hum of fluorescent lights. Kyle walked the hallway slowly, the soles of his shoes whispering across waxed tile. His tie hung loose, sleeves rolled. He could taste rain in the air before the first drop touched the roof. His office waited at the far end of the corridor, door half closed like it was also tired. Inside, the space looked smaller than it had that morning. Stacks of student essays, pinned notes, a mug that read, "World's Best Counselor" in fading marker. Little gifts covered every shelf of his office, proof that the room meant something to the students. A rainbow keychain hung from the filing cabinet handle. A folded thank you card leaned against a jar of pens that read, "Thank you for listening." A drawing of a sun with uneven rays taped to the wall, given by a freshman who hadn't spoken aloud for the first 2 weeks of school. Each object caught the light differently. Each one carried a face, a story, a small moment of courage that he'd promised to guard. He sank into his desk chair. The essay on top of the pile was from a student who wrote about feeling invisible. He read it again, tracing the sentences with his thumb. The handwriting reminded him of his own at 15. Tight, slanted, scared to take up space. He could still picture that classroom. The back row, the teacher who looked away after hearing a rumor, the way silence felt both safe and like punishment. He remembered walking home that day and deciding that someday no kid would feel that alone if he could help it. That decision had built this room, his career as a school counselor, and also his current exhaustion. Thunder rumbled outside, low and long. The lights flickered once, steadied again. The air smelled like chalk mixed with rain. Kyle leaned forward, elbows on knees, hands clasped. The day replayed itself. The student who came out to him in his office had cried with relief. The senior who handed him a letter about finally telling her parents her truth. The shy kid who had just started using a new name. They'd all left lighter after talking to him. He hadn't noticed how much heavier he'd become because of it, though. He stood and crossed to the window. Lightning bolts lit up the parking lot, rows of cars already gone. A single paper swirled down the sidewalk, one of the graduation posters that had slipped free from the wall. It reminded him of this year's last school bell. Joy mixed with endings. The plant on the windowsill leaned toward the glass. leaves trembling from the wind draft. He reached out, pinched off a brown edge, and dropped it into the trash. He turned back to the room. The colors felt too bright. The thank you notes, the mugs, the little gifts. Suddenly, all of them looked heavier than they were. He loved these reminders, but they were pieces of a promise that never rested. Every note said, "You saved me," but none said, "How are you still standing?" He packed his bag, zipped it halfway, then stopped. The sound of rain reached through the cracked window, steady, metallic, a rhythm that matched his pulse. He set the bag down again. His hand rested on the doorknob, cool metal against warm skin. For a moment, he just breathed. He thought of the teachers still awake somewhere grading papers, the ones rewriting tomorrow's lessons, the ones who stayed late for a student who needed to talk. He thought about all the quiet heroes who would never make the morning announcements. The thunder grew louder. He opened the door. The hallway stretched ahead, fluorescent light buzzing above, reflections of rain sliding down the glass. Each step echoed. Each echo felt like another year repeating. At the end of the hall, he pushed through the exit and stood under the overhang. Rain fell hard, thick drops hitting concrete, splashing against his shoes. He loosened his tie and watched water trace lines down the steps. He wanted to cry, but didn't. He wanted to rest, but couldn't. Instead, he stepped forward into the downpour. The cold caught his breath. His shirt clung to him, sleeves heavy. He tilted his head back and let the rain hit his face. He didn't release the weight he carried. He just let the storm press against it. Behind him, the building glowed through the glass, steady, pale, waiting for tomorrow. He stood there between thunder and light, drenched, silent, unbroken. The hum of the lights and the hiss of rain folded into one sound. The same hum that had started the day, the same one that would start it again. Thank you for listening to Stories Between Us, a podcast about queer male connection, tension, and everything that gets felt but not always said. Follow Stories Between Us anthology on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you like what you hear, leave a comment and rate the show so more people can find us.